All right, here's our last video in section 2.1, where we've talked about solving single-step equations, either adding something to both sides, subtracting something from both sides, multiplying by the reciprocal on both sides, or dividing on both sides. And it was kind of easy when all we were doing is focusing on one idea. But eventually, all those ideas are going to be a little bit scrambled up, and you got to be able to look at a problem and decide what approach you're going to take. Are you adding? Are you subtracting? Are you multiplying? Or are you dividing? So let's look at a couple right now. Example number 4 asks us to solve. And what I always do is I look first to see where my equal to sign is and where my variable is. Because eventually, if I want to solve, I need my answer, my equation, to say x equals. I want the x to be by itself on one side of the equation, and I want everything else to be over to the other side. So looking at A, I notice that my equal to sign is right here, and my x is here. And so if I want to get x by itself, what's on that left side that I have to get rid of? Well, it looks like there's a -8 that's being added to the x, not multiplied by, but it's being added to the x. And so I need to get rid of that -8. And so if I want to get rid of the -8, I've got to do the opposite of a -8, which is really adding 8 to both sides. Now, you might want to rewrite that a different way. It might make more sense to you. Instead of writing it -8 plus x, could I say x plus a -8 equals -3? As long as your 8 is still negative, as long as we're still adding, we can rewrite it in a different order. And then you might be able to see that I'm adding a negative, or I'm really subtracting 8 to the x. And then that might be easier to see that to get rid of the 8, we can add 8 to both sides. However you like to do it to make it easier for yourself. But if you notice, the +8 and the -8 should cancel. And so I have just left an x on that side. On the other side, I have a -3 plus 8. -3 plus 8 is 5, and I end up getting x equals 5. A little bit tricky because it was written out of order, so you have to be careful on that one. All right, what about b? My equal to sign on b is here, and my variable is over here. It's a t this time. I have 18 equals 0.3 t. You notice on this one that the 0.3, the 0.3, is right next to the t. What operation does that mean when it's right next to the variable? Yeah, it means multiply, right? So in order to get rid of the 0.3, I want to divide both sides by 0.3. As long as I make sure to do it to both sides, I should be balanced, right? Well, 0.3 divided by 0.3 is just a 1t, or could I say just t? And then I can figure out what 18 divided by 0.3 is. I ended up getting 60. T equals 60. All right, look at C. My equal to sign is here, and my variable is here. All right, I have a 2.6 plus A. You notice that the 2.6 is added to the A, so I want to get rid of the 2.6, and it's a positive 2.6 right now. Or what you could do is, again, rewrite it, kind of like we did on A. So instead of writing it 2.6 plus A, could I write it as A plus 2.6? And then you might be able to more easily see that you can get rid of the positive 2.6 by doing the opposite, by subtracting 2.6, as long as you make sure to do it to both sides. If I have a positive 2.6 and it's being added, I really want to subtract it to the other side. The positive 2.6 and the negative 2.6 zero each other out, and so I'm just left with A on that side. On the other side, I have a negative 0.46 and a negative 2.6. I'm going to add those together and keep my signs. I ended up getting A equals negative 3.06. Making sure that you practice all the different approaches. Sometimes you're going to be adding, sometimes you're going to be subtracting, sometimes you're going to be multiplying by the reciprocal, and sometimes you're going to be dividing. You've got to be able to tell by just looking at the equation what approach you're going to use. And the only way that that's going to get easier and more obvious is by practice. Practice, 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 practice. Make sure you practice all of this stuff because eventually we're going to add a little bit more to it.